What's up, everybody, and welcome back. I've been getting some requests to do some more advanced building tutorials or compositing tutorials, so I figured, what if I show how to do some buildings, how to build buildings, and then in a separate video, we can make a scene with those and throw it through the compositor, and I can show how I do my composite setup. So you probably have seen these from my other video on how to do the windows on my channel. And I'll be posting the file that has all these window textures on it because it will kind of be necessary to do this. But these are some buildings that I threw together over the span of about 3 days. And there are 6 of them in total. And I was working on making the scene, so I have them all in these like kind of building group formations, so that because I wanted a shot from over the buildings, and it kind of gives you that feeling like there's roads and stuff going in between and some hills and stuff. But yeah, so this is something I've been sort of working on. I figured I'd show how I basically do these buildings. So I'm going to open a new file. And with this in mind, it's always great to have reference. Like for those other buildings I did, I had a like a reference board I threw together in Procreate, and I had about, I think, like 7 or 8 different pictures of different buildings on it that I was drawing from. But I figured I'd do this one today because it's just a bit simpler and it'll be a bit quicker to put together. So I'm going to tab into edit mode, and I'm going to make sure to position this cube along the z-axis so it's level with the grounds. And I'm going to press S-Shift-Z to scale it out nice and big. But as you can see, this is not a crazy wide building, so it doesn't have to be humongous. It's usually a good idea to add in an armature, so, or like a character or something to keep scale by, and I think that looks about right. Generally, let's see, I usually, so if this is the size of a person, I usually bring it up about 1 more higher than that. So it's about, I'm trying to remember what this is, 3 meters tall here. Yeah, like that. So that would be 1 level basically. I am going to put an edge loop through here. And I'm going to just select these and delete them for now. And I'm going to go to the modifier tab, and I'm going to add in a mirror modifier, like so. Turn on clipping, that'll just make it so it stretches everything, as opposed to non-clipping means that you can tear it apart like this. There are times when you want to have clipping turned off, but for now we can have it turned on. Let's see. I'm going to make the next 2 floors, so I'm going to just hit E to extrude and then drag it up. I think 3 looks like it'd be good. E to extrude again, drag it up 3. I'm going to position this so it's a bit more where we want it. And then there's like this roof part up here, so I'm going to extrude it up 1 more time like that. Maybe a little higher, like that. I'm going to press A to select everything. I'm just going to press SY and scale it in just a little because this original building is very thin. Because it's so thin, that probably means it should be more wide or long than wide. So I'm going to drag it out a little bit here and scale it in. Oops. Select everything, scale it in with the Y, like that. All right, that looks to be good. Let's separate off the details we're going to need now before the geometry gets very messy. So I'm going to select this top piece here. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate it. I'm just going to make it a bit smaller, like that. Drag it up here. Get a little past where we need it, like that. I'm going to add an edge loop on there and drag it up to about the top of the building. Just select these 2 sides, Press E to extrude, SY, oops, shoot, SY, there we go. And drag it out like that, so it goes about to the edge here. I'm going to select this whole thing. Just going to do Alt E, extrude along normals, just to give it a bit more depth before we start modeling this out. And I figure we'll do all the stuff like the windows and stuff. We'll do that kind of last, because once you start beveling this kind of thing, the geometry starts to get harder to work with. So it's best to try and get these the bigger details out of the way first before you do the minor ones. Let's see, how does this work? So we have this bottom part, which we have here, and then this top part is like extruded out. So I'm just going to select all these. And I think before I do, I'm going to actually take these edges, GZ, slide it down just a little bit like that, so they're a bit more of an equal size. And then I'm going to select these top ones, Alt E, extrude them out like this. About as far as you think is good. Then I'm going to add a loop cut here. I am going to up the number of cuts to 2. Actually, yeah, it's up to 3. I'm thinking. No, 2 is good. All right, I'm gonna up it to 2. I'm gonna press SY and drag them out a little bit here. And I'm going to select this top part. And let's see, what's the best way to do this? Honestly, okay. See, this is where things start to get a little more finicky, because it's like, is it better to do the details down here first or to extrude this up? Honestly, the quickest way might just be to add an edge loop and then just kind of cheat it, stretch this up a little bit like that. Then I'm going to select these edges by pressing Shift Alt and then clicking. And I am going to give this a bevel. I'm going to bevel this nice and big. And now you'll notice this looks kind of nothing like what's going on here. And we can change that so it bevels in to create these like geometry folds by adding more segments, first of all, which makes it rounded. But you can change to this shape. So if you change it in, you can make it bevel through like that. So basically what we want is we want it to snap. So I'm going to change this back down to 2, make this all the way to 0. And like that, I'm going to select all these, give it a similar bevel, and do the same thing up here again. Kind of creates more of that feel. You can select this one, bevel it, and then you get it'll bevel out. Select this, bevel it, and I want to change it up for this one. Make it a bit more of a big curved swoop like this, as opposed to a sharp edge, just to really change things up a little bit. Yeah, like that. So then I am going to select these faces here. I'll do this in segments actually. I am going to actually put an edge loop in here first. I'm going to select this one and this one. I to inset them. Alt C to scale down. Select this one. I to inset them. Alt C to scale them down again. This one we can change it up. This one can be a bit bigger if you want. I know in the photo they're the same, but we're making our own thing, so it doesn't have to be exactly the same. I'm going to Alt E, extrude along normals, extrude them out. I to inset, extrude them in a little bit. I to inset, extrude them in, like that. Then we can make these little supports here. And this, when I said earlier, like it's best to get the bigger pieces before we start doing the beveling. And that's because there's less exact pieces that you can duplicate if you want them. So I'm going to select this one up here, Shift D to duplicate, and press RX90, so it's portrayed along this way. I'm going to take it, bring it down here, scale on the Y, so it's like a size that's usable. Oops, maybe like here. And I'm just gonna make these little bits here. So I'm gonna slide this all the way back so it's a bit behind everything, Alt-E extrude along normals. I'm gonna bring it out crazy far until it intersects here. Now you'll see it slopes in. So I'm just gonna, and I apologize for the cars in the background, it's a challenge. I'm just gonna kind of mock out where these will go. So this one has to be back down here. This one's fine where it is. And now we can bevel these bad boys. So I'm just gonna, how do we want to do this? It might be easiest to actually have it come the other direction. So it's rounded in here. And here it's going to be rounded out like that. And this one is going to be the cutaway like that. If you really want to get in, you can take this one, make that be a cutaway too. Something like that, just something to think about. And then you can go in and you can add all sorts of details that you want to these pieces here. You can inset them, extrude them out a little bit, inset them, extrude them in, inset, extrude in. All right. Take this, I'm gonna just duplicate it, Shift D, drag it over to the other side, like so. Then I'm gonna bring it here in the middle, or the middle. I'm gonna press SY. I'm just gonna make this one be a bit beefier than the others because we have more room and we might as well use it. Something like this. I don't know, these buildings are made by hand, you know, or at least cut out pieces and then crafted together. So nothing in real life is gonna be exactly symmetrical. So you have some wiggle room as far as things don't have to be perfectly lined up. I mean, even if you wanted to, you could rotate these a little bit just to give it a bit more offset and then make it look a little bit more handcrafted, but that's up to you. So we got this here. I'm gonna take this whole thing. Oh, how do I want to do this? Uh-oh. See, this is why you got to be careful here. I accidentally forgot to pull this side up, so I'm just gonna quickly grab this edge, bring it up here. I'm gonna select this whole thing, or at least these top points. I'm gonna press SZ0, so now it's lined up. Cool, problem fixed. I'm gonna select these edges here. And I should let you know, on all my buildings, honestly, the roof parts are what takes the longest because all the windows and stuff are pretty easy. I'm gonna Alt-E extrude along normals, bring this here. I'm gonna select this whole lip, Alt-E extrude along normals, bring this out to create that like metal trim that goes over the whole thing. And then you can select this whole thing here, just give it a bevel but in other direction so it's a bit more smoothed out. Cool. Let's make that triangle cutaway. So just select these, I to inset. Make sure that when you're insetting you don't cross over the geometry because that'll mess things up. Alt-E extrude it back in, I to inset, Alt-E extrude it back in, I to inset. And if you ever can't inset anymore, you can always just press S to scale it in. Like, it doesn't look quite as good, but it works. So I can't inset, so I'm just gonna tap I and not scale it, and then just press S to scale it like this. And then same thing, tap I, press S to scale it in. I don't know, something like that. Cool. So now we got a acceptable top going, and you can add in these little mini ones if you want. Honestly, you could just select this, Shift D, make it really small and really wide, and then just position it under here and make sure it's actually intersecting the geometry here Yeah, because otherwise that'll mess everything up. You can just duplicate this around a few times. Like that. I don't know. This building's old. All right, leave it alone. All right, that actually looks surprisingly not bad. Okay, let's get on to the fun stuff now. So, let's start with blocking out where the windows are gonna go and where the door is gonna go. So I'm gonna add an edge loop. I'm gonna up this number to, yeah. So that way we can just select this face, this face, this face, this face, this face, this face, and this face. And I'm gonna press I, and that would inset all of them, but I'm gonna press I twice. So I, and I'm gonna just inset it to where it's about the right width for all of these, maybe here. And the windows are a certain like height to them, have a certain height to them, but the door is gonna be a bit bigger, so I'm gonna do the windows separately. I'm gonna press SZ, scale them up like that. Let's see. Do actually individual origins up here, SZ, scale them up. Yeah. And this should be okay right there. And also, just so you know, I'm not going to focus on this ground, like, basement floor. I'm just doing from, like, the door up for this tutorial, because it would be a bit simpler. And SZ on this door here. Make it nice and big, kind of exaggerated even. I'm going to bring it down here so it's almost on the grounds. Cool. And then here, there's, like, a double window thing, so I'm going to, double click I to inset all these. And let's see how I want to work this. So it might be the easiest to just drag this over, because this one kind of lines up with this side, but it doesn't line up over here, like in the picture. So that's close enough. You can SZ it to get it to where you want and just move it around so it looks about right. Somewhere like there. This could be a little bit bigger, honestly. Like that. Okay. So now we got all our main parts that we need here. I advise, let's just do the details for one of these windows. Again, we got to try and do this before we bevel too much, so we have some detail left to work with. I'm going to press Shift D, duplicate this, scale it down along the Z here, position it kind of at the bottom of this window. I'm going to put it back because the window is going to like be inset. I'm going to press Alt E, extrude along normals, and bring it out to make that kind of little window bottom piece. And I'm going to press SY, scale out here. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to duplicate this up, bring it to the top of the window. This one curves over, so we can do that. But first, let's model this the way it should be. So I'm gonna see to bring this up, and I'm gonna make this little piece around the top here. So I'm gonna SY to make it even wider. Y for wider. And I'm gonna I to inset. Sorry, that was a terrible joke. And drag this back a little bit. Alt E, extrude along normals. Bring this down. Get here. A little more, actually. Yeah. So as you see, this starts out flat, and then it curves in, and then ends flat again. So I'm going to bevel this out so it's like this. And I'm going to select this mid piece, GZ, to bring it up kind of like this so it matches the top of the window. And then you can just select, you don't have to select all of this if you don't want to. You just need that bottom piece, so we can just bevel it like that. Yep. And that is basically it for these. However, I think it would be wise to just take these and just give it a little bit of a bevel, because it looks really weird when you have flat edges on something. So I definitely advise giving out some bevels where it's due. These can be, shoot. All right, good enough. These can be beveled. I would advise actually beveling them the other direction though, so that they're beveling in. Oh no. We're gonna change this to percent, because that'll probably work a bit better. Nope. All right. This is like the main problem with bevels, is trying to figure out how you can best do them without it like completely ruining your geometry. 0.01. Up this to 2. I think that's going to be about as close as we'll be able to get it. Okay. So I'm going to select these and wrong side. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate them. Position them over here. Shift D to duplicate. Position it over here. I'm going to try and get it lined up as much as possible. All right, I'm going to press L while hovering over the geometry I want, and that'll select them. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate it. I'm going to slide it all up to the next level. All right, now we got some little window top and bottom pieces here. I'm going to make I just realized I think you can hear the crickets. I'm so sorry, guys. It was like low-key embarrassing. All right, I'm going to just take this piece, Shift D to duplicate it, scale it in a little bit here. Oops, bring it up so that's on top. I'm going to make this wrap around here. SY, make sure it sort of lines up like that. I'm just going to select these M pieces, E, SY. Oop. Make sure individual origins is turned off and it's back to medium point. And I'll try SY again. You should be able to drag those extrusions out about that far. Just E again, drag them down. All right. I'm going to take this whole thing. I'm going to extrude along normals out like that. You can see the geometry is kind of separated, so I'm going to take these bottom pieces and I am going to hit I, just give it a little extrusion, and I'm going to take these top pieces and hit I, give it a little extrusion, so that way the geometry feels kind of separate from itself. Again, if you want to add some bevels here, go right ahead. For the sake of time, I'm not going to. I'm going to make this little like brick lip here. So I can press this, Shift D, SZ, bring this down here, make it a little wider. Now it's raining. It's like the fates have just decided that it's a bad day to record a video. I'm going to take these, just give them a tiny bit of a bevel, make sure this is back to, make sure this is back to 0.5. All right.